Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing fantastic out there. Happy New Year to everybody out there, and appreciate you guys stopping by the channel. Hope you guys can subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button, comment, whatever else you guys could do to help with engagement. That'd be great. And also subscribe to the Tobin and Leroy show. We'll be back on Thursday, January 2nd, full go for the rest of the year. So hope you can join myself, my boy Leroy, my boy Marcos, our girl J-Fig, and everybody on the Silly Sauce crew. And looking forward to that, everybody. But was boots on the ground today. The Miami Heat had practice. We had said in previous videos that Jimmy was expected to be at practice if there was going to be a practice, and then there was a practice. Miami Heat are getting set for a back-to-back against the Pelicans and the Indiana Pacers. They got some news today. It was a busy time also because they were awaiting the Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier news, and Terry Rozier ends up getting suspended. Tyler Hero ends up getting a fine. I'm going to do another video on that because I actually have some other thoughts on the homestand that is not Jimmy Butler related, but this is a Jimmy Butler video because Jimmy Butler spoke. He spoke to the media today for 5-6 minutes, something like that, and mostly answered every question except for mine. But this is what I think. Look, Jimmy Butler is one of my favorite athletes to cover because he's not a guy that will give you the most buzzworthy quotes. A lot of the times, following a Jimmy Butler press conference is like you got to follow the breadcrumbs. You got to follow like, oh, okay, because I think by nature, Jimmy Butler likes to be a contrarian with the media. I don't think that he likes to exactly give the media what it likes. If he didn't have to do it, he'd never do it. And so I think that you do have to kind of, corral everything and see where's the stuff that actually matters, where's the juice, and what can we take out of this. But I will say, was in good spirits today. Was not in a was not bitter about anything with all the Pat Riley, all the Sham stuff, all the rumors. Didn't find him to be ill-tempered or anything like that. I thought that he handles and has handled all of this season in stride and all of this stuff in stride. And I genuinely think is being as honest as he is right now because I don't think that he has all the control and all the answers on this stuff. I will say, out of my scope of it, long view, before we kind of dive into the nitty-gritty of everything and what was said and what can we take it, I get the sense that Jimmy Butler, I don't think after hearing him speak today that I don't think the Shams report about preferring a trade is bullshit. I don't think it is. I don't think that the idea that Jimmy Butler is the idea that he's demanding out or that he's trying to get, I don't know. That was kind of where I was trying to lead in today with my question about him, and that was the only thing that he wouldn't really touch is what are the conversations like with Pat Riley, or what have they been like with Pat Riley. And the only thing I can say to that before we get into his actual comments is, he did answer all that stuff for like 2.5 minutes straight, and then we kind of got into his illness. But I never, I wasn't able to jump in there because, the OGs, the writers, they were kind of like, riffing with him. And I was like, all right, that's all really good stuff. But I did want to get this one point, and maybe he was tired of talking about it. So there could have been that too. But I really also think that the look on his face showed he wasn't going to go and reveal what conversations have been like with Pat Riley. But I don't think it's crap what Shams is saying. I think that Jimmy Butler, I think, is at the point, what Jimmy Butler wants more than anything is his contract. And I think is tired of beating around the bush with the Miami Heat. And I think genuinely, I don't think this comes down to he doesn't think he can win here. I don't think this comes down to relationships in the locker room. I don't think this comes down to ill feelings about his teammates. Quite the contrary. I actually think that Jimmy Butler, had some pretty cool stuff to say about, the fight. And he said, like, if I was there and it was Tyler here on the floor, even if I was on the bench, I'm diving in there to go get him. I'm crossing that line. I think Jimmy Butler's been really, really solid with his teammates, at least in the public eye. has been really rock solid with his teammates so far this year. I don't think that that's any of it. And was even asked a little bit today about like the idea about what his teammates are dealing with. He goes, they don't have to deal with anything. I'll handle the noise. It's my noise. I don't, it's not something that should be an issue for them. But yeah, I definitely think that there is a rift, a schism, a frostiness, a strained relationship, whatever you want to say. I think that very clearly came through today in the press conference. I think that Jimmy Butler, put it the way that he could, and that, yeah, it is in Pat's hands, and Pat's going to do what Pat's going to do best for the organization. So I genuinely don't know what's going to happen. But, also did not, when asked point blank about his future here or desire to be here, didn't say like, hey, for sure I want to retire with the Miami Heat. Now, he did say that he's content here and he's in a good place. So let's get into some of the stuff. We'll react to it as we go with this. But the first part about it was, his interaction. Ira Winderman comes out of the gate and was asked about the whole Shams report and where things are at with that. And, even off the bat with this, you were kind of like, oh, was that a dig? Was that a little pot shot in there? Because it's like the initial comment is basically like no bigs, but then you're like, it's kind of just like at the remember when we played in the aftermath of this first being a thing, and Jimmy Butler had the throwaway comment in the end of at least somebody sticking up for me. That's what I mean when it's like following a Jimmy Butler press conference. It's never usually on the surface. It's always usually like either the dismount or something in the middle that you got to pay attention to.
So we're sitting there on Christmas Day, about to enjoy the holiday, and all of a sudden a report comes out that Jimmy Butler would prefer a trade and becomes the talking point for a couple of days. For the first time we have a chance to talk to you. Can you sort of fill us in on when you saw that and your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on it is I like it. Because no matter what I do, somebody's always saying something. So like I've been doing, I'm going to keep my mouth shut and play basketball.
All right. So he says he's going to keep his mouth shut and play basketball, which, yes, was pointed out online. It's tough not to harken back to, of course, Pat Riley's comments about Jimmy Butler back in the summer, which when I asked him about the comments that Jimmy had about sending the Celtics home, of course, Pat Riley, he said in his comments about all of this that if you're not on the court, you should keep your mouth shut.
For him to say that, I thought, is that Jimmy trolling or is that Jimmy serious? If you're not on the court playing against Boston or on the court playing against the New York Knicks, you should keep your mouth shut. And your criticism of those teams.
So in this case, at least he's saying that I'm going to keep my mouth shut and be on the court in the hardwood and play basketball. I guess it's all good, baby, right?
Keep my mouth shut.
So then Ira asks him point blank, and he's like, all right, well, would you prefer to be traded? And this was what Jimmy had to say to that.
Is it true? Would you prefer a trade?
Does it matter? Does it?
You sure it does?
No, I don't think so. All of that's out of my control anyway, so like I said, I'm here, I'm hooping.
I think it's one of those things like immediately, like, does it matter? Well, yeah, Jimmy, I think kind of. I mean, unless you're going to go out there and tank, which is kind of the weird thing about all this, right? We did have the illness that was in the background of all this, which certainly made it. I definitely think that the idea that Shams drops this report in the midst of Jimmy Butler being sick, and as he put it today, down for the count. Like, so he was really sick, lost a lot of weight, had to get his muscle back, as he described today. All of that didn't help, that this was with the background of he had to get himself back into, playing shape and weight. While this was all looming, and, sick players don't talk. Sick players don't talk. Injured players don't talk. So we were just kind of sitting in the breeze wondering, like, is he really sick? Like, what's going on here? And I think that's probably where he was like, not that anybody cares. And it's like, it's not that anybody didn't care, Jimmy. Like, it's just, it's wondering, like, is this a ploy or is the guy really sick? You don't really know. It was a weird thing, but he had said, like, yeah, it was bad. It was a bad illness, and he definitely, I think he cleared all that up with his answers today. He then was asked by Barry Jackson, would he be content finishing out the year? And he basically went down like a whole labyrinth of like, I don't know, because he was asked about, Pat has the statement that they're not trading you. Would you be content finishing out the year? And he did say that he appreciates the statement, but either way, there's not going to be any ill will.
And then Pat made the statement the next day saying you won't be traded. If you finish out the year here, will you be happy and content?
I don't know. We will see. Only time will tell. I can't tell you what's going to happen come tomorrow. But, I appreciate the statement. But this is a business after all, so I know what is capable, and I won't have any hard feelings either way.
And in your mind, is it in the best interest of both parties for you all to stay together for the rest of the season or to have an amicable divorce?
I don't know. That's up to Pat and them. They're going to do what's best for the organization, as they should.
He's like, look, this is not in my control. Not in my control. It's up to Pat. He doesn't really know. He doesn't have any hard feelings. This I do feel like was Jimmy. Jimmy, as much as you want to say, like people who want to say and heard today that, hey, he's rats off a ship, he's done. I will say, Jimmy Butler rounded this off, and I'll play this clip for you here in a second. He did say, and this was, I think, an important thing. He says, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm in a good space. I'm happy. I have my kids here. I promise you I'm happy. Which did lead me to believe, like, hey, there's not going to be any protesting. There's not going to be any dogging it. There's not going to be any whole thing. Does Jimmy Butler want to be traded to a place that would actually pay him his contract? My guess is yes. My read is yes. He wants to go somewhere where he gets his max dollars. The Heat, I think they made it clear. They know this is a man who, the regular season takes its toll on him. Misses a lot of games. Can the man turn into a friggin' supernova in the playoffs? Has he been incredible? Of course, dude. What is that worth? To me, I thought it was worth giving him the extension. That was my opinion on it. Because there's very few players I feel like can dial it up in the playoffs like this guy. He is your absolute alpha. He is your star. He's one of the Heat legends. He's put up some of the most legendary performances in Heat history. To me, that was worth it. And for people who say you don't pay for future, you don't pay for the past, you pay for the future, well, that's just complete horse bleep. I mean, like, let's be real about it. All contracts are based on past performance. No good contract gets paid the max because of future performance. Like, like maybe Anthony Edwards just to keep him happy, or like Giannis. But most contracts that are signed for the future to take care of a guy, wink, are just an organization trying to take advantage of a guy and seeing if they can get a good value deal, and that guy wants guaranteed money, just written and saved and all that type of stuff. That's kind of a wink, wink. That's for future performance or value, right? But most performances are paid based on what you have done and where you've been and what you represent to the organization. And, I do just think that the Heat, I think there's genuine questions left of, and this has happened with Dwayne. This has happened, this happened at the end with Shaq. This happens in their organization. Like, the Heat are cutthroat no matter what. If they don't think they can get the most out of you anymore, they're going to go and try and find a way to pivot to something else. But the question is, with Jimmy Butler, a post Jimmy Butler world, one, do they have a plan for it? One, and two, is it better than what Jimmy is going to provide if he can be that guy? And then I think the fair question, to be fair, not to just completely, slobber everything on Jimmy's side here, is Okay, but he is getting older, and he has missed 10 games already in 30. And that was kind of Pat's point. So is he going to be able to sustain now through the rest of the season playing his style? We'll have to see. But he did put it as that he's in a good place right now.
And as long as I'm happy, and right now I'm happy. I'm in a good space, I will tell you that. I got my kids here. I'm healthy. I'm smiling. I promise you I'm happy.
All right. Now here comes what I would say is probably the money part of today's interview. When Tim Reynolds asked him just flat out, hey, do you want to be on the Heat? And he hits him with the immediate response is, that's a good question. And I'm like, that's a good question. It's the only question. He goes, and there's a lot of ways you could slice up the way he answers it, but here's the clip. I think that was probably the money clip, the one that's probably around most of social media right now.
Not to belabor this, but none of us know what will happen tomorrow, the next day. I get all that.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to be?
It's a good question. Who knows? I don't. But right now I'm here, so I'm gonna make the most of it, and I am gonna compete, and I am gonna win. And that's all that I got. It's a lot of talk, and it is a lot of noise, which I'm cool with. It doesn't bother me at all. The traded, the not. I love that. I thrive in that. But it keeps all y'all wondering. It does. It keeps the world wondering to where y'all gotta keep coming back and asking me about something. So I like it. It's good to be talked about. Even better to be wanted, though. Remember that.
It's even better to be wanted. It's good to be talked about. But it's better to be wanted. And what do you think that's referring to, ladies and gentlemen? It's better to be wanted. Better to, to feel like the organization actually appreciates your runs, believes in what you did, believes in you. And let's not forget, look, Jimmy Butler, the reason some of the stuff that's been lost over the years of Jimmy Butler and why he's gone so many organizations. The Bulls didn't really believe in him enough to give him his max because they didn't think that he was a max, the face of the franchise type guy. That's where moves on to the Timberwolves, right? Goes to the Timberwolves. Karl-Anthony Towns gets his money. Andrew Wiggins gets his money. Jimmy Butler doesn't, they're kind of like, do we pay Jimmy Butler? You guys need me. Boom, off to Philly. Joel Embiid's franchise. Ben Simmons. He's getting the keys to the kingdom. All right, but if we pay this guy, is he going to be, I want to be somewhere I want myself. I don't want to be questioned about if you're going to pay me and let me be myself. We'd rather pay a guy like Tobias. Tobias kind of just chill. Jimmy's not chill. Jimmy marches to his own beat. Gets to the Miami Heat. First contract, cool. They let him be him. Finals runs, gets an extension. But now the Heat are at a point of age. And letting Jimmy be Jimmy, with age, with missing games, not getting to the Eastern Conference Finals or the Finals anymore, not knowing if he can get you there anymore because last year, he played through an MCL injury in the play-in game but wasn't there for the playoffs. So you don't know. But I think the Heat are very, very scared of that gamble, and especially if a guy who is, a handful in their eyes to handle in certain things. But he does say that he's in a good place. I believe that. Said that he'd dive in there for his teammate Tyler Hero in the fight. I believe it. Think that when he's been out there, he's looked like an effective player. He's been getting to the free throw line like a damn demon. But missing 10 games is concerning. It is. That cannot be ignored. I think he handled everything in great stride today. The lone thing that he would not touch, though, was the question that I asked him. As I said, he could have just been tired about talking about it. So I leave that. I don't want to act like I've, unwielded some crazy question here that I couldn't believe that he didn't answer. I'm just letting you know that. So you have to. I'll keep in stride that he could have been just sick of talking about it because he had kind of answered every question. But I did think this was like, hey, My point of it was, after hearing all that, and that's cool, and he's saying Pat's going to do his thing, and it's up to Pat. But my question about it has been, have you guys talked to Pat? Has Bernie talked to Pat? Has there been any conversation with Pat? Like, do we know? Do they know what your stance is? Because Pat had the statement, and this was the lone thing. He's just like, he kind of gives me this look, and I've gotten the Jimmy look before, and I know the Jimmy look you get sometimes is like, like, it's just like, you can already tell, like, he's either I'm already sidestepping it, or I'm not dealing with it. He can do the Pat, and it's fun because it's like you see that look in his face, and you're just like, I could already feel it was going to go two ways. Like, I was either going to get some honesty, or it was going to get completely like, But his answer was just a simple next. Not answering it, dude.
Jimmy, the time between the rumors and Pat putting out the statement, any conversations between you and Pat or your agent and Pat about where things stand and where you're feeling on it?
Next.
Speaking a little bit about the team, and obviously.
All right. Well, I mean, I just want to be clear here, too, also, everybody who says I'm a pot stirrer. First of all, I don't like that, okay? I don't like that. I'm not a pot stirrer. All right? I want everybody to get along, all right? I've said give him his damn money. I, quite frankly, think that, like, Jimmy and Pat should go to, like, couples therapy. And I feel like it'd be a lot healthier if they would, just iron their stuff out between them than the media. But, I asked Pat about Jimmy comments, and it's keep your mouth shut. And it's like, all right, well, you say, hey, Pat, it's ultimately up to Pat. Have you guys talked to Pat? Then gives me that look, and I'm just like, all right, man, next. I don't know what's next. I guess the question is, what is next? He says next question. I guess we all have to wonder, what is next? And for right now, I don't know. I think right now it is a state of the Miami Heat. I think probably have had those conversations, and Bernie Lee has probably had those conversations with Pat, and probably Pat wonders, like, why is there still all of this stuff out here, about preferred destinations and lists? Like, I'm not getting to that. And that's why the statement's out there. And I think also Spo is sick of being asked about it too. I still am under the impression I don't think he's getting dealt this year. I just don't see the deal that the Heat are going to pull the trigger on. I just don't see it, and I don't think it happens. I think the Heat, honestly, above all, want to win. And I think Eric Spoelstra does like a lot of the talent that he has. And I know Heat fans don't want to hear this. And I'm not just saying this is where I think they're coming from. And I think that their opinion is, for this year, or they can only win this year, I think they'd rather just be like, hey, Tyler's balling. This is what we've always wanted next to Jimmy. Him and Tyler seem really cool at a high level of relationship right now on the court. If we can get Jimmy to the playoffs, if we can string some along, and the Heat have a favorable schedule coming up, if they can start stringing some along here, and Lord knows with this team, because they'll win the games you don't think they will, and they'll blow the games that you thought you'd swore they'd run away with. That's been their MO almost the last 3 years. But all in all, I think what the Heat organization wants is they always want to try and win the most games possible that year. There's not a lot of reset. They've already spent a draft pick last year on the Terry Rozier deal. They're not really in a position, unless there is like a 3 first-round pick return for Jimmy Butler. I don't see them moving him, dude. I really, really don't. And I don't think he's in a position where he's going to make that much of a stink about it. I think these conversations have happened. I think they've tried to play the media game. But I think this is where we're at right now. I think Jimmy Butler's probably in a place where, yeah, he wants to get moved to a place where he would get his dough. I can't fault him for that. If the Heat don't want to pay you, shouldn't you want to be somewhere where you can get the most money possible? Not that he doesn't make an extreme amount of money. He does. But I kind of get why that got frosty, because that's why it got frosty every place else. So you can't be surprised that that's where we're at with this. But on the Heat's end of things, the Heat are not going to be like lulled in. We're not going to deal you for Bradley Beal. Like, we just pay you. You know, that's kind of the whole point of all this. So I kind of think that they're just in this like not a honeymoon phase of their marriage where like they're staying together for the kids. They're together for Tyler and Bam and Nico right now. Like that's what they're staying together for them, but they're not in love anymore. You know, that is over. All the great things that they've done, they are simply here because, you know, you got nowhere to go, or I'm not going to let you go anywhere, and you know you got to wait it out right now until that next cash cow comes around, I guess. Is it going to be the healthiest thing in the world? I think that probably depends if the Heat win or not. I mean, I think if the Heat play well, I think it kind of eradicates everything. If the Heat go in the toilet at some point, then it could get really bad, and it could press into more of a mode to do that. But if it, you know, stays where most Heatland does, which is a couple games over 500, you know, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of always going to be, the noise will be there, but you know, there's not like some supernova contender out there for me either. But certainly was an interesting day down in Heatland.